and to use it to find their way. Guided by the angle of the sun, the flight of birds, the coolness and wetness of a breeze, their minds were their compass. But despite their finely tuned skills, Ballard knows the sea still claimed the lives of many.
Yeah, he slowed down a little, I think.
That doesn't make finding them any easier.
Well, I've sure seen a lot of this in my life. Lots and lots of mud. That was like wood. She dropped the ship.
The search reveals nothing but a few false alarms.
Look at that big anchor. Ship like a boat operator? Yeah, that's not that old a ship, but, well, I'll be darned.
That's a modern boat.
Yeah, it's modern. Well, we'll keep plugging away. Only got 4 million miles to go.
The Mediterranean covers almost 1 million square miles of Earth. Ancient records say that by 1100 BC, the Phoenicians reached its western gateway near Gibraltar. They called this place the Pillars of Melkart, named for their primary deity and the god of storms.
Before the Phoenicians, very few people from the Mediterranean had sailed far into the Atlantic. This must have been the most terrifying experience for ancient sailors.
To reckon with their fear, Phoenician sailors would have struck some kind of spiritual bargain. Evidence of that bargain is exactly what archaeologist Paco Giles has found. Proof that fear is what filled this cave with charms.
The
Phoenician navigators came here and personally made an offering to create an alliance, a kind of marriage between the deities, the sea gods, and them, the navigators. They made these offerings to the deities to gain their support and protection for the difficult passage through the Straits of Gibraltar, to the end of their world.
What pushed them through the pillars beyond the relative safety of the Mediterranean?
The desire to get rich quick. There was a push factor and a pull factor that drove the Phoenicians in their travels. The push factor was that they lived on the edge of great empires which were constantly demanding tribute from them. They had to produce wealth to pay their conquerors. The pull factor was that they could make great wealth for themselves as well.
At the cusp of the Iron Age, the ancient world's desire for metal was growing, and the Phoenicians were eager to discover new sources.
It was that huge and growing appetite that encouraged the Phoenicians to move further and further afield to look for new sources of ancient metals, including iron itself.
Once they ventured beyond the pillars, they didn't stop. Herodotus wrote of Phoenicians who circumnavigated Africa around 600 BC, some 2,000 years before Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama. Another account tells of an expedition to Western Africa. The captain wrote of seeing crocodiles, hippos, and women with shaggy bodies called gorillas. The explorers skinned 3 of them. The Phoenician navigator Himilco allegedly braved the Atlantic's rough seas as far as the coast of Britain, all in pursuit of tin. If these accounts are valid, then it is the Phoenicians who started the first age of Western exploration, centuries before the birth of Christ.
The most amazing thing about the Phoenicians is not so much that they invented maritime trade, but that they actually pushed the whole boundaries of commercial trade far beyond what anybody had done before.
Any hint hint of that glorious past has eluded Robert Ballard. His search along the ancient sea lane near Carthage has left him empty-handed.
Yeah, I haven't been able to reach him either.
But for Ballard, the game isn't over yet. He knows a place where he can find the next best thing, Roman wrecks that he believes were based on Phoenician design. He's going on more than a hunch. Rome coveted Phoenician ships and the trade routes, an envy that would lead to conflict with Carthage and to the final chapter of Phoenician history.
Carthage was the most terrifying enemy the Romans had ever had to face. It was a great naval power, whereas the Romans had really no ships at all. Envy and jealousy of the Carthaginians' wealth probably played a large role in the way the Romans in particular painted Carthage as an evil and corrupt society.
Ancient writers claimed that on moonlit nights, Carthaginian priests offered a living child as a sacrifice to the gods in times of war, famine, or plague. Flutes, tambourines, and lyres drowned out the parents' cries. Their ashes and bones were put in a small urn and placed with others in the sacrificial burial ground of their goddess.
We know that the Israelites and the Greeks and the Romans hated Phoenicia and Carthage and constantly went out of their way to paint the Phoenicians negatively. But it's surprising that they all picked on the same story. So surprising, in fact, that many scholars think that there must be something to this.
Though the accounts come from their rivals, the archaeology appears damning.
The evidence that people have found that the Carthaginians really did sacrifice babies does seem to be quite strong. In cemeteries that the Carthaginians called tofets, they found the burned bones of babies buried inside pots.
Since the 1920s, archaeologists have uncovered 20,000 of these burial jars. The stories must have stoked Roman hatred for Carthage. Imperial envy, perhaps bolstered by moral outrage, led to war. But Carthage was a formidable enemy. The Phoenician colony had evolved into an unrivaled naval power. Their sleek fighting galleys were the ultimate warships of the ancient world. With multiple levels of rowers and a bow encased in bronze for ramming, they could wreak havoc on enemy fleets. But even more impressive was the harbor where they were birthed. Constructed at the pinnacle of Carthaginian power, the harbor boasted sections for both commercial and naval vessels. Surrounding a tower on a man-made island were slips for more than 150 warships. This was the heart of their maritime power. Nothing threatened Rome more. The two ancient superpowers battled for over 100 years in what were called the Punic Wars. In 146 BC, Rome finally routed their navy and sacked Carthage, destroying what had started 700 years earlier as a Phoenician colony. Rome now ruled the Mediterranean, and its ships sailed freely throughout the sea. Bob Ballard, now poised for a last-ditch effort, is anchored over two of them.
Well, this is where the Punic Wars were fought.
Ancient accounts give Ballard hope.
Somewhere in here there's...
He knows the Romans were so jealous of Phoenician ships that they once captured a Carthaginian fleet and copied each ship, plank by plank. Ballard's intentions are a little less ambitious. He plans to use the excavator Hercules to remove the numerous artifacts on the surface of the wreck. Then look beneath them at key parts of the hull.
We've got 0 speed. We're settling right on target.
Yeah, roger that. We're right over the wrecks.
But Ballard must have angered one of the Phoenician gods, because on this expedition, he just can't get a break.